Right. And that gets to one of the other skills.
Yes, please.
Because a second skill that we talk about in the book is what we call seeing. And what we mean by that is the whole concept of being able to come up with fresh perspectives and new ideas. Now, the great masters of art were fabulous at helping us see the world in new ways, whether it's the Impressionists or the Abstract Expressionists or whoever it happens to be. Now, the neat thing about the great masters of art was that they were also good teachers, as I've mentioned.
Yes.
And one of the things that they teach us is that they actually used foreseeing strategies to help them see their art and the world in a new way, and therefore help us see things in a new way. One of those is cultivating the mind of a child. And I want to emphasize that as part of the conversation because of what we were just talking about. And for instance, Henri Matisse, the great French painter, once said that in order to be a great artist, you had to put on the mind of a child, because if you ever lose that spontaneity, you cannot create in an original way. So what do we mean by putting on the mind of a child? If you think about it, we have been conditioned over many, many years, in some cases many decades, to take on the mind of the adult. And what the mind of adult basically is a little voice inside of us telling us what's right and what's wrong, and overlaying judgment on our behaviors and so forth. Think about the mind of a child. A child doesn't have that little voice inside of him or her yet. So they are much more spontaneous, and as a result, they look at things freshly. There is no right or wrong, and that allows them to be a lot more creative. So if we cultivate the mind of a child and develop the ability to neutralize that voice inside of us, we can also be a lot more creative.
You know, I think I mentioned to you I studied Buddhism, and as I remember, that's one of the philosophies. Come to the world with the mind of a child.
That's right.
Curiosity, open to everything that's out there, as opposed to that voice, you know, yes, no, having all of these thoughts that keep us, whether negative or good, bad, judgmental, keep us from really developing that mind of a child and just seeing everything and gleaning from it.
Right, right. And it's not easy because we've been so powerfully conditioned that to reconnect with that spontaneity and that curiosity is really, really very difficult.
Yes, I would agree, but I love these. I love these 7 creative principles.
There's some others, but there's one I want to talk about in particular because in the research that we did, this one surprised me the most, and it's collaboration. And the reason it surprised me the most is because when we think about the great artists, we have this image of them alone in their studio, working on their Olympian vision of what great art can be, and that they were individualists, and they did this struggle by themselves with the canvas. Nothing could be further from the truth. What I discovered is that the great artists were great collaborators. Let me give you one example.
Please, absolutely.
Pablo Picasso, one of the great artists of all time, and always reinventing his art, entered into a collaborative relationship with a French artist by the name of Georges Braque.
Sure.
And they went to each other's studios. And Picasso said, my work was never done until Braque told me it was done. And Braque's work was never done until I told him it was done. Not only did they have that close intellectual relationship, but they actually put strokes on each other's canvases. And during a particular period, you can't tell their paintings apart.
Yeah.
Now, together, they invented the art movement that introduced modern art to the world, and that's called Cubism. Cubism would not have happened if it had not been for the collaboration of these two wonderful artists. And when we think about whether it is coaching or whether we think about life change, often people feel they have to make the journey by themselves. And I think this is even more true about men than women. Going back to the hunter-gatherer days, and the whole notion that men tend to be less,
Pig-headed.
well,
Sorry.
no, my wife would actually agree with you. But they tend to be less open to being vulnerable and to sharing
Sure,
their
absolutely,
emotions
yes.
and so forth.
Right.
So often it's more difficult for them to collaborate. Women, on the other hand, grow up, emphasizing relationships, and that whole
Right.
thing introduces a precondition for collaboration. But I would just suggest to whether you're male or female, looking for collaborative relationships or fellow travelers as you consider navigating change will enhance that experience.
Yeah, when we think about the business world and think about men and women, again, I'm not sure about this, but it feels like men might be less apt to really collaborate because their ideas might be stolen or somebody's going to get a leg up on them. I don't know, I'm kind of making this up as I go along. And women sometimes that too, but they look for some kind of a harmonious relationships that they can bounce ideas off. And I know as a coach, it can be very lonely and isolating because you do work with clients either in person or on the phone. And if you're not out there collaborating and being part of something bigger with other people that are doing the same thing and ideas can flow, it can be very lonely.
Right, right. I think things are changing in the big corporate world, partly because global competition is forcing organizations to look for solutions through collaborations.
Yes.
They don't have the resources to solve all the problems internally. So, but that doesn't mean that executives in large corporations know how to collaborate. They may think that it's important and valuable to do so, but it's not clear that they know how. And again, I think the great artists can teach us some things about that.
I'm sure they can, and I love that whole collaboration and working together. This is something new for me, because you think when people are creating, whether it's Michelangelo or Picasso or Da Vinci, that they're doing it alone, instead of having other people to talk about and bounce ideas off about their work.
Yes.
Fascinating.
So it's collaboration in terms of ideas, collaboration in terms of what's going on in the art world. It's collaboration in terms of working side by side with their canvases. So it's collaboration on a lot of different levels.
So how about one more skill, if you'd
Sure.
like?
Sure.
Or what else, and talk about your book a little bit.
Okay.
Please.
Another skill is what we refer to as embracing uncertainty. Wherever there is change, there is uncertainty. We can never know for sure what the outcome is going to be. Now, what happens often is that when people are confronted with uncertainty, they either shut down or they lapse back. They are uncomfortable with looking at uncertainty as a potential resource for creative insight. And what we suggest in the book is that the great artists actually used uncertainty as a subject matter for uncertainty. I'll just give you another example.
Please.
Again, Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa. To me, the Mona Lisa is the ultimate expression, visual painting expression of uncertainty. For instance, what's the expression on her face? Is it a smile? Is it a smirk? Is it, I know something that you don't know? So the basic expression on the face is one of uncertainty, and not Picasso, Da Vinci is giving us a bigger message here, that life is filled with uncertainty, but it could end up being the subject of a great painting, just like your life could be the subject of a great creative outburst.
I think today, when you think about a big painting, you look at the big picture of what's going on in the world today,
Yep.
and the landscape, again, of business being challenging and certainly more uncertain than ever before. There is no security, whereas, maybe 30, 40 years ago, you knew you had a job, you got a gold watch, and you were secure.
Right.
Today's world, I don't believe anyone can actually say, I'm certain about what I've got, because that could all change in a New York minute.
Right, right. A New York nanosecond.
Right, exactly.
But the key here is that uncertainty does not get in the way of action,
Right.
does not get in the way of moving forward. And very often that uncertainty can act as the raw material for coming up with new solutions. Because when things are changing, that's where there's opportunity. The great artists saw that, and I think the best business leaders understand that. And part of their responsibility on behalf of their organization is to manage that uncertainty, to leverage that uncertainty for innovation in their organizations.
Yes, I would absolutely agree, because that's almost has to be a mandate today as to what's going on. It's, maybe making uncertainty an ally instead of an enemy.
Exactly.
And how can you utilize uncertainty and step out of a comfort zone into, turbulent waters?
Right.
Because that's the place you really grow, is the uncertainty and the turbulent waters where you're not comfortable, instead of being in a comfort zone. Whereas today, I don't know that anybody can say, oh, I'm in a job and I'm in a real comfort zone. I mean,
No.
they're going to be out the door within 5 minutes.
Right. And the uncertainty ain't going away.
No, absolutely not. So I think it's, change is what is that? There's an expression about change being the new part of our lives.
Yeah, it is. And not only is change a permanent part of our life, the pace of change is increasing. So that's almost like a double whammy. So the key to navigating in the corporate world today, in global competition, as well as in our personal lives, is developing these creative skills so that you can navigate change. It's not a matter of stopping the change or say, whoa, stop the world, I want to get off, because it ain't stopping, but rather learning how to navigate that change.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your book?
Sure,
More?
happy to do that.
We have about 3 minutes left, so tell us a little bit about the book.
The book is called Becoming a Life Change Artist, semicolon, 7 creative skills that to reinvent your life at any stage, and co-authored by Kathy Jordan. And the book really looks at art and creativity and its connection to life change for leaders and for individuals going through change. There are 3 or 4 fundamental premises of the book. Number 1, life change is a fundamentally creative process, as we talked about in the beginning. Number 2, that creative process mirrors the creative process of the great artists. Number 3, that there are specific creative skills that one can master to help them navigate that creative process. And number 4, that you don't have to be a genius to learn those skills. We can all learn those skills.
And they can find the book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.
Barnes & Noble, Amazon, online, all the usual places.
And just to remind you that Fred will be speaking at our ICF meeting this coming Wednesday evening. And if you're interested in really hearing about and doing some of the exercises, please feel free to go to our website and sign up to join us. We'd love to have you. So as we have a couple of seconds left, Fred, anything else you'd like to impart as we end? We still have about 20, 30 seconds.
I would say don't be intimidated by this notion of creativity. We are all more creative than we think we are. It's simply a matter of tapping into that creativity and using it as a powerful asset in work and in life.
Sounds really fabulous, and I think that the book sounds wonderful. I'm actually going to go out and get it myself. I want to thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Being our guest.
Yep.
We have a couple of more seconds. thank you for being my guest. And although I won't be at the meeting, I think that you're going to be fabulous and really impart some wonderful, wonderful skills and principles for our audience. So thank you very much, Fred. It's been my pleasure having you.
Thank you for
Truly.
your lively questions.
Thank you. We're
Okay.
off.